you were actually, or you would have called yourself an atheist at that point then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I read the God Delusion at that point. I thought it was very compelling. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Richard Dawkins is a stupid man or anything like that. But, in my opinion, and I think a lot of atheists still have this viewpoint, science negated spirituality. Like I saw those things as conflicting. And I thought because I believe in science and we could, I guess, quantify things, then therefore anything to do with any sort of theology was just garbage.
Yeah.
That was the perspective that I have. That's the perspective that I think a lot of atheists that I speak to still have. But then, when I got, I guess, a little bit further into my exploration into philosophy, I came across Plato and Aristotle, who, they're not Christian theologians by any means,
Right.
but when I began reading theories like the theory of forms and also the allegory of the cave, theory of the unmoved mover, I began to sort of question the reductionist view that I was having, that everything must be spiritual, because at that point I was still very much interested in things like ethics and morals. And so, I started to become more open to the idea of a creator God, which I think, people like Plato and Aristotle were very much for. So I would, at that point, have kind of qualified myself as a deist. And so, I guess I kind of explored different ideas concerning that for a while. But I think, if you are a deist, and, I was someone who very much subscribed to the idea that, okay, there is an objective right and objective wrong. I know myself and humanity, we all fall short of that objective right. And so then it came about how do I rectify that? Yeah. Right. Because, I'm all about the idea that if we have a purpose, if we have something we're here to do, then it is sort of our, I guess, intrinsic need to fulfill that. So just struggling with those questions really, in an interesting way, brought me full circle back to Christianity. Started reading the Bible, and I'd read it before, but this was the first time where I was like actually genuinely reading it, taking it in, what it was saying about the nature of man, the nature of myself, what sin was. And I think that's around the time that I became born again. I was around 14 or 15. And at that point, like I said, my family was sort of the Christmas, Easter Catholics. We didn't really have a strong Christian tradition. When I started exploring for myself, a lot of the resources that I was reading about these questions that I was having, they were, I guess, more evangelical sources. And, when I compared that to a lot of the Catholic traditions that I had grown up with, a lot of Catholicism I just didn't see reflected in the Bible, in scriptures. And especially like a lot of the, I guess, the Catholic theories surrounding the role of grace versus works and things like that. So since I was 16, I began attending a Baptist church. And, I guess ever since then, it's just been trying to grow into my role as a Christian. And I think, I went through that phase when, I guess what I want to say, young teen, where I was like, oh, this is great. I've like reached the, like, I'm a Christian now, everything's, it's done, which I think a lot of people go through. And, then I had this one minister in college who was like, she brought me through survival kit. I had to learn that, no, it's like, there's a lot of growth that we each need to do. So it's just been, I guess, me trying to work with that, trying to find how I can best serve as a Christian, because, it's funny, I talk about politics a lot, but if you were to ask me what's the most important thing someone can bring to the table, what's the most important thing we as humans can do, it's absolutely to follow Christ. I don't at all think that I have the gift to be do apologetics full time. I don't have that talent. That's why, I admire theologians and philosophers who do. I think it's such important work. So I guess it's just me trying to serve the best way I can.